Hey guys, how y'all doing? Getting colder. Summer's over. Getting my sweaters out. Oh, I'm a little out of breath. Just finished up a workout. So forgive me on that. I think the thing I want to talk about today is yesterday, Aaron O'Toole, the newly elected leader of the Conservative Party, came out with a message to Canadians on Labor Day. His message was pretty straightforward, which is the Conservative Party is the party of the worker and wants to help Canadian workers get through this period of time, and Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are anti-worker and so on and so forth. So I think what I was left with was a very simple question to the Conservative Party, which is just how gullible do you think Canadians are? And that's actually a question I have for the Canadian public, which is, how gullible are we? The Conservatives seem to think we're extremely gullible. And given that they're enjoying upwards of 30% support, depending on the poll you look at, it turns out that Canadians are extremely gullible and very stupid. At least 30% of us are just blisteringly gullible because we're willing to put our support behind a party that for the last 40 years has literally betrayed us at every step of the way, has completely pushed all of its chips into betraying the working class as hard as possible, breaking up labor unions, breaking up labor movements, ensuring that worker rights and what the demands of the working class are not met and in fact are undercut. This has been the work of the Conservative Party for the last 40 years. And if you think otherwise, you are illiterate and stupid. And there's just period. It's not a debatable point. So for Aaron O'Toole to come out and pretend as though the Conservatives are the working class party, it's just propaganda, and if you fall for it, you're extremely gullible. Like, extremely gullible. Like you should not make important life decisions for yourself. That kind of level of gullible. You really need to find more skeptical people to inform you about what's happening generally, because at this stage in the game, to believe that the Conservative Party is interested in anything but its own power and its own prestige would be like believing a drug addict when he says, oh, just one more hit, I'll just one more hit, that's fine, it's totally fine. Like, these people are rapacious liars. They consistently lie. They can't help themselves but lie. And Aaron O'Toole has shown himself to be a very adept liar. So, for example, he comes out in support of LGBTQ rights and all of this kind of thing, which is a complete and total fabrication and a complete and total lie. Because the reason why he secured the Conservative Party leadership is because of his pledge to serve the social conservatives, i.e. the racists and the fascists, within his party. That's how he secures power in the Conservative Party. So for him to then turn around and say that he supports the rights of the enemy of the people who secured him power is a lie, is a joke, and the social conservatives within the Conservative Party understand that it's a lie. When Aaron O'Toole says Canada first, okay, this is a fascist dog whistle. Should be understood that way. Canada, in this context of the phrase Canada first, just like in the context of the phrase America first, is understood very clearly to be straight white people. If you are not straight and white, you are not welcome to the party. That's what Canada First means. And again, if you think otherwise, it is because you are gullible. It is because you've been duped, and you just don't want to admit it. The Conservative Party is probably the most dangerous party in Canada. I shouldn't say probably. It is the most dangerous party in Canada because its objective is to destroy the nation, to tear apart its civil services, to tear apart the working class, who are the enemies of the capitalist class, who the Conservatives serve exclusively. And when Aaron O'Toole stands up and says, oh yes, gay people have rights, oh yes, we care about the working class because Canada first, wink, the fascists and the racists within the party understand that he is lying in order to secure power for them. Right? Like, if Hitler was to stand up and say, oh yes, I support the rights of the Jews, and then did a Nazi salute Heil Hitler, you wouldn't believe him. And it would be very well understood that he's lying in order to secure power for his own party so that he can attack the Jews, right? Much in the same way, the Conservatives, when they put forward a candidate who's saying Canada first, who's saying, oh yes, I care about the rights of workers, oh yes, I care about the rights of homosexuals and transsexuals, should be completely understood as a liar. And his history indicates exactly that, right? He is a Harper troll. He's just another Harperite who has no ideas, who is using his platform to further his own career. He does not view, just like Harper did not, just like Scheer did not, he does not view the position of Prime Minister as a service to the Canadian people. He views it as a way for him to advance his own career. And all you have to do, sorry, I've got an errant hair in my periphery. There we go, I did it. And all you have to do to see exactly what's going to happen to sort of a liar and a shill like O'Toole is to see what happened to Harper, right? When Harper stopped being the Prime Minister of Canada after he served the interests of the corporate power structure and the capitalist class, he just went on to sit on many boards of directors of those corporations he served, right? They rewarded him thoroughly by giving him positions of power and prestige within the club and within the community of capitalists, where he gets to stand up and he gets to say things and we're supposed to take him seriously, even though, as far as I'm concerned, he's a Canadian traitor and shouldn't be trusted. Because his interests lie in the destruction of social services. His interests lie, just like all conservatives, they lie in the interest of destroying the social security network, destroying any system that actually helps the poor and downtrodden. And of course they do all this while clutching a book that tells them to do exactly the opposite. And so now, so the question, and we have a long history of conservatives doing this, and it is without exception, right? You can look at Brian Pallister in Manitoba, you can look at Jason Kenney in Alberta, you can look at Doug Ford in Ontario. Over and over and over again, they will say whatever it takes to convince gullible rubes to vote for them, and then the moment they get into power, they will betray those gullible rubes. It's the reason why conservatives can't actually win a second election, because it's so obvious that they're trollish liars the second they get into power, that from day one, the populace wants to be rid of them the second they get them. And once it becomes obvious that they are lying because they are acting in a way that liars do, even the most gullible among us go, "Hey, wait a minute, he didn't do that thing he said he did," while the rest of us are going like, yeah, we know, like that's what conservatives do, that's how conservatives operate. And federally, the lineage of the Conservative Party is not different, right? Stephen Harper Stephen Harper he manages to secure power just because the left collapses in Canada. That the Liberals, who essentially had been in power for several decades, really, with minor interruptions from the Mulrooney, the Mulrooneys, Mulrooney absolutely destroyed the Conservatives federally because he revealed himself to be a complete and total grifter, a prolific liar who passed a piece of legislation that absolutely decimated the working class here in Canada, which is NAFTA. It allowed capitalists and corporations and conservatives to ship jobs overseas and forced the labor market here in Canada to begin competing with Chinese slaves. And under that arrangement, you can see very clearly, right? Wages stagnate while productivity skyrockets. And for the first time in the nation's history, wages are decoupled from productivity. Thank you, Brian Mulroney. Now, of course, the Liberals after him did absolutely nothing to prevent this because they were also corporate shills, which leads to their ultimate destruction. Because the populace came to a point where they realized, and this is as Harper is gaining steam, they realized that if the Liberals are going to act as Conservatives act, then we might as well be rid of them and just have a conservative rule. So, and this is more or less how Canadian politics works, is that the Liberals are permitted to be in power as so long as they don't make things worse. One, don't make things worse. Two, actually attempt to improve things. They're slow going at that, right? You really got to pull their teeth. And here in Canada, you have to form a movement to the left of the Liberals to actually force them to do that. And that's the role of the NDP and the Green Party. You have to actually threaten them with a loss of power. And if they flout in your face and actually come to believe that they cannot lose power, as the Paul Martin and Chrétien and Ignatieff Liberals obviously did, then we have to destroy them as Canadians, which we've done in the past and are willing to do again. And we should be willing to do it again and again and again and again and again. Conservatives are... So that's the game that leftists have to play here in Canada, right? We have a pro-corporate party that sometimes does what we ask of it, which is the Liberals. But then we use the NDP and the Green Party to flank from the left and scare them into actually doing what we want them to do. And that's the game that the left has to play. The right here in Canada operates completely differently. Because they're the home of the racists and the bigots and the fascists, because they're the place where people come together in order to decimate and destroy the populace, they have singularity on those issues. If you want to destroy the populace, if you want to destroy the social systems that we all rely on, if you want to sell the society to a group of rapacious sociopathic billionaires, there's a party for you, and it's called the Conservative Party. So when Aaron O'Toole stands up and he says that Conservatives give two shits at all about workers, he's obviously a liar. Like, obviously. It's so blatant and so obvious to anyone who's even read a single newspaper in the last 20 years that for him to have done it requires a level... You have to assume that the populace is so incredibly gullible to even attempt it in the first place. And I think that their hope is that the corporate-owned media, the conservative newspapers, are just going to go along with it. And no one is going to stand up and publish any meaningful paper or make any meaningful commentary that goes like, wait a minute, that's a total fucking lie. The idea that the conservatives are worker-friendly, the only time a conservative actually considers a worker is within the context of exploitation. How can we reduce this person's wages? How can we make their lives harder? How can we make them more desperate? How can we make them more dependent on us? This is why conservatives are so anti-government, because they understand that if the government came in and actually did what the government's supposed to do, which is care for the needs of the populace, that the populace would realize that the capitalists and the conservatives are worthless parasites that need to be exiled from the society completely. We've done it in the past. We've decimated the Conservative Party after the Mulroney Conservatives came in. They had 2 seats left. Like, think about that. They went from being the majority holders in the government to having 2 seats in a single election. The problem with Canadians is that it seems like we need to actually elect these losers first, right? It seems like we're unable to actually realize that they're grifters and con men and thieves. We seem to need to actually get them into power to realize that they're lying to us. They've always been lying to us. They're trying to dismantle the civil society. And everything that comes out of their mouth should be highly suspect, and we should be extremely skeptical of it. The only reason the Conservatives actually do have power, the power that they have right now, you can actually pin that on the Liberals, in my view. If the Liberals wanted to resolve the problems that are going on amongst the working class in Alberta and across the prairies, they could. My hope is that the Liberals are going to pass basic income style legislation on a permanent basis, so that people across the prairies who have been affected directly by job losses, by this transition towards a green economy, they will actually start to go, oh, that's actually good. The people around me are actually being helped. Oh, okay. Like, maybe a vote for Liberals not such a bad idea. And I think that's the goal of the Liberal Party here, is that their goal is to pilfer votes away from the Conservatives, and the Conservatives' goal, but the Liberals' goal is to do that through legislation that actually helps people, whereas the Conservative idea is to just lie to people. Because they only really need to have power once, right? Like when Stephen Harper got in, he got in as a majority leader for once, and he completely reconfigured how the society functions, right? And the Liberals, of course, because they're actually pretty closely allied to the Conservatives, didn't do anything about it. They didn't reverse any of the stuff that Harper put in. They didn't reverse any of that because, again, the Liberals work for the same people the Conservatives work for. It's just that occasionally we can convince them to work for us. So I'm going to wrap up this video by asking a very poignant and serious question, which I don't think you're going to hear anywhere in our media, which is, how gullible are we? Are we gullible enough to buy into the conservative lies and propaganda, which is, how do you know a conservative's lying? They're talking. How do you know they're spewing propaganda? They're talking. They're incapable of telling you the truth. They're incapable of actually being honest about the situation. Because in many cases, I don't think they understand the situation. I think that they're illiterate, that they don't actually know anything, and their stupidity and dependence on a capitalist corporate death cult, if we go along with them, is going to destroy us, right? These people don't believe climate change is real. These people don't believe that they're walking around saying things like Canada first, right? Expecting us to just ignore that that's a racist dog whistle and it's right in front of our face. So the question becomes, quite seriously, how gullible are Canadians? Are we just going to go along with this, or are we going to decimate these losers like we should have done 10 years ago? Anyway, good luck out there.